you have the reflexes to dodge these punches, anybody can have good reflexes with their Reflex framework. With this, you can build frontend and backend in one code base, all in Python. You have an inbuilt database. You have a great Discord community. And you can even wrap React components. That sounds awesome. It is awesome. Here on their starting page, they have some examples, an image generator, some form, authentication. Here they have a dashboard. Paul Atreides. Seems there are some Dune fans on the team. Nice. If you don't know Reflex yet, I would suggest you to skip the video for now and just try those 3 commands: pip install reflex, reflex init, and run, and you will have it already running. It's that easy. What I will show you now is this template, which I just built with the motivation of reusing it for any production apps I wanna build in the future, so that I don't have to redo it all the time. This here is an open source, or let's say it's a public repository. You can use it as well. It's not perfect. If you have suggestions, especially the Clerk wrapper is not perfect yet. If you have suggestions, please let me know. You can read everything here in the README, or most of it. I didn't write all of this myself. Yeah, I generated it with README AI and then adjusted it a bit. I would say we try it out and then we check out what happens, and then we walk through the code. I deployed it twice, once on hosted Reflex and once on self-hosted version, so that you can be sure that this code actually works and I'm not just saying it works and it doesn't. We can sign in here, for example, let's do the following. Let's try to create a new user. I think with this email I don't have one yet, right? So yeah, couldn't find your account, sign up. I come to the sign up, then I get a password for, enter. Now I get an email code, which I forgot that I will need, so I will open it on my phone. And now we have here the email code. And are we in? My laptop is overloaded with recording and showing everything at the same time. What we have on the side here is also from Clerk, this overlay to manage the account. I can click here, I see this stuff. This is not done by me. This is the Clerk React wrapper. When I want to sign out, I can click here, sign out, and I sign out. Now, what did we see on the Clerk dashboard? We can refresh it. Now there should be one user more. I'm here at dashboard.clerk.com in my application, Reflex Template. You can set this up for free. And then we have 2 users, Clerk Testing and Clerk Testing 2. And here you can do many different things, from 2-factor authorization to deleting users and other stuff. This is very convenient if you want to build an app, because you don't have to develop all of this, which is basically the same on all the apps. Every time I click on get code, where I've just been, so let's log in again. This button here, I just made some example log, and this gets sent to BetterStack. So we are here BetterStack, and I just log that we show that a user wanted to get the code. So we now probably have to reload a little bit. I put in the logging, but I actually messed something up, which we will fix now. So we have here user, then I get I see the variable, but not the actual user email. So I wanted to display here email, but I fucked something up. But it gets shown in the logs, which is great, because now I can troubleshoot. I would say it from this side. So this is what the app does for now. You can log in, you see something, and stuff gets logged. Now, how does it look on the code side? page. I would start with better stack logging because this is easier to understand. So what we did in utils, we have here login config. We just added a formatter so that this stuff gets actually logged in color if you use it locally. I'm not sure if it gets shown on better stack in color. Maybe we should try it out afterwards. And then in the init.py, we configure the logger. So this is the classic Python logger setup that you can then use anywhere. And we also add the better stack handler. Of course, okay, if I don't use the custom formatter with the better stack handler, then it will not show the colors, but this is fine for now. I also removed these watch files.main because otherwise they are shown all the time, and this is something from Reflex which I don't want to see. And now if I want to use the logger, I just import logging and make logger is logging.getLogger with the name, which is then dynamically inserted here. And then I can use it. And for example, here I use it logger info, user, clear user state, email gets the code. And this is where I just said it didn't load the email yet, but the log definitely comes through, which is great. Or the next thing is the clerk integration. So there's no official wrapper yet for Reflex. I just copied stuff together from via Alec and Carl. Yeah. Thank you for providing me with the code so far. This is the basic stuff. Signed in, signed out, sign in stuff to check whether a user is signed in or signed out, and then let him sign in or sign out with certain React components. Where it got complicated was when we wanted to get the email and the name of the actual user. I'm not sure if this is the best code, but it's the only one that worked, and Carl made all of this. So yeah, shoutouts to you. Get app wrap components, this one, and this then wraps everything already inside. I didn't dive deep into this. I didn't want to understand it. I wanted to use it. And right now we can use it. So what happens is that we have the signed in and the signed out clerk components, and this only renders the stuff inside when the user is signed in or signed out. And if he's signed in, we display the app content. Otherwise, we display the sign in widget, which you can see here. So this is the sign in widget. This gets displayed here. Then after the user signs in, this states, one turns false and the other true, right? So then we displayed here app content, and here we just display the rest of the stuff. And the only important thing which we have is here and here. So these two, where we get from the clerk user state the name and the email. This is loaded in via some script call over here with the get hooks, where we check if we have email address and name, and if we have, then we call the setters, which we define further up in Python. Set mail, set name. Don't ask me too many questions why this works, but it does, and I'm very happy about it. And then we can display the user email, which we do right now here. The thing is, why don't we display how are you and display the name, is because I didn't make a name. Now when I signed up, there was nothing in the mask. It's possible to set a name with a different log inflow, I guess. Don't worry that there's no name shown by default. Maybe I should even remove this. I'm not sure if that makes sense for the template. But okay, this is the clerk part. And the only thing you have to do is to set the clerk publishable key and the Betastack API token for both of these to work. Because in the rxconfig, we load in the environment variables just once, then it's available in the whole app. Very convenient. You can use this .env file. In .example, then you see what you have to add. Let's go from the other side. I tried out 4 different ways how to deploy Reflex apps. One very good option is to use the hosted Reflex version. I tried to deploy it on a, how do you call it, container platform as a service, something like that. I deployed it on DigitalOcean app platform, it's called. This doesn't work very well because, as far as I understand, you cannot use Redis, which allows multi-user use of the Reflex app. Another option is to create a single Docker container and on a server and then host it via Nginx, for example. The problem there is as well, you don't have Redis and a bunch of other things which make it more robust. And you have to manage the Nginx on your own, which is a pain if you have to do it all the time. So there's the fourth option to use all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Docker files and Caddy file and Compose file, and to deploy it via Docker Compose. And the cool thing is that Mason also made a GitHub workflow to do this automatically. So what we have in these files is not too important for you because you run it and it works. And here in this GitHub flow, it's very similar. You have to set here the branch every time it gets pushed. To which branch should something happen? You can also change this, of course, to make it all the time when something is merged or pull request is created. First, should talk about, okay, when should you use the hosted version and when should you use the self-hosted version? Hosted version is very good when you don't have GDPR concerns, when you don't need to install custom app packages in the Docker container, and when the operations you perform on the server are not too heavy. So for me, GDPR and installing custom app packages was a problem. Or is sometimes a problem. Let's put it like this. So I also use the self-hosted version. If you want to deploy it on the hosted version, it's very easy. You just make reflex deploy. Then it should already deduce app I'm talking about. I didn't do this on this laptop. Let's see what happens. So it asks me if I want to update the requirements. I say yes. Then it tells me I have to validate my token. I continue with GitHub. And then I have to go back to the terminal. We go back. It asks me which region do I want to deploy. I always use Frankfurt. And then I can set some environment variables. So in our case, for this app, you would go here, you would click clear publishable key, enter, then you would here enter the key, blah, blah, blah. And you would do the next with the better stack, API token, and so on. Right now, I don't want to redeploy it, but yeah, you get the idea. Then it's done. Then it's deployed like this one here on the reflex.run domain, and you can use it. Great option to deploy stuff. Then, of course, you can forward from a custom domain to this one. So that works fine. On a self-hosted, you should start by watching Mason's video how to deploy it in 90 seconds. Create a Ubuntu instance, and then he always opens the firewall to some ports and installs a few things. So up until here, you should run it, and then you can use the GitHub action. Just make sure that you have an actual server. What you need for the GitHub action is to define a couple of secrets. So if you go here to settings, secrets and variables, and then we have here a couple of secrets. I have log level, prod better stack API token, prod publishable key, prod docker host, prod domain, prod and SSH key. what I have in what I added in this workflow is that we differentiate between main and dev branch, because I like having a staging environment and a production environment. In this case, I only have production for this template. Yeah, it makes sense to make both. And that way you can set the prod better stack API token and a dev better stack API token to differentiate between those two, depending on where you get pushed, on which branch you push. Just to have this in mind. What is the log level? Yeah, okay, it's info. If you deploy it to production, you could also differentiate here between dev and production. This is also self-explicable. This one, prod docker host, this one is the IP address of the Ubuntu server that you have in the cloud. Domain, something that also happens in this video is that you go to your name service provider. Here he just uses this, I know it, I was there, like you can make free subdomains, but if you use something else like GoDaddy or Namecheap or Pork Bun, you have to forward, of course, your domain or subdomain to the IP of the server that you just created. You put in this domain here. So for example, in my case, this is reflex-template.dentro-innovation.com. This is where I decided I want to deploy it. And then you have the SSH private key. So for this solution, you need to create a public-private key pair where the public key is registered as an authorized key on the Ubuntu server. And then you store the private key of this SSH key in the GitHub action so that the GitHub action can act as if it would be this user and this authenticated. Then it works, everything runs through, and in my case, it's deployed here. Now, a few caveats when using the self-deployment version, because it took me quite some time to get it to run actually. First of all, you need to set the right environment variables. In this case, we have here the ones that we need for this app. If you don't want, I don't know, BetterStack, then you have to remove everything with BetterStack, obviously. So here, this line, then this line, and then further down, there's another one, this one. And also in the Docker Compose, we have to remove it here, because here it gets loaded in to the environment where the container will run. In prod, we don't have to do anything. No, just in compose.yaml. At the same time, if you want to add an environment variable, you have to add it in those two files, right? So you have to add it here. You have to add it in prod.docker file. If you need to install another apt package in the container, you should do it here. We have two stages in this Docker file. First, an initialization phase, and then another one. And if you want to use in your Reflex app packages, then you have to install them here in the stage 2. This was something I wasn't aware of. I installed it somewhere here, and I was always wondering why it was never available. So you just add here something like run apt-get install blah blah blah, whatever you need. So this you do in stage 2. For knowing where I have all this stuff from, you can check out here this repo. So reflex docker -example. This is it, where actually just all these files that I use are here, and I just follow this guide, right? So production service with Docker Compose and Caddy. Which reminds me, something important, we use here Caddy as a reverse proxy. So if you have on your server nothing set up yet regarding serving a website, this setup works very well. If you have already something set up there, like for example an Nginx server, then you have to do a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly what. You have to forward probably from Nginx to Caddy or something. But just so that you know, this works very well on a naked, clean, new Ubuntu server. Yeah, I think we are good so far. This is the template which you can find it at dendro-innovation/reflex-place_template. Give me feedback to improve anything. Perhaps you have yourself something that you use all the time in your apps. Would be interesting to know. And I hope you can use this as a good starting point for your next Reflex app. See ya!